our government here in Greece, we were told, I lead a small progressive party in the parliament. We were astonished to hear from our prime minister that the Greek Navy, which hardly has enough fuel to go around the Aegean after 10 years of a debt deflationary destruction, right? We are sending a frigate, or we actually sent a frigate to Saudi Arabia in support of Saudi Arabia.
This is just, it's really crazy. We're in a pandemic. We need to vaccinate a big percentage of the population globally if we want to be safe.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. January 25th was a day on which 200 organizations called for actions to protest the Saudi-U.S. war against Yemen. We'll begin with part of a Zoom forum held on that day, sponsored by Stop the War UK.
We've hit 1K attending the Zoom. That means that we're massively oversubscribed. So we've had to be redirecting thousands and thousands and thousands of people onto YouTube and Facebook pages around the world. So there's a huge number of people tuning in tonight, which is absolutely fantastic news. We've got reports of demonstrations or protests in Montreal in -14 degrees. There's a Zoom being organised by the DSA in France later on. Reports from the protests in Yemen and one in Anglesey as well in the UK. So that's fantastic news. And our next speaker is Yemenis Varoufakis, who is the co-founder of DiEM25, but he's also a former finance minister in Greece, actually. But he's a very, very high profile, very, very energetic activist and an author on a whole range of issues, including campaigning against war and neoliberal capitalism. So we're very pleased to have Yemenis with us. Over to you, Yemenis. You need to unmute. Sorry.
It's important to unmute for all of us during these muted times. Thank you, Chris. I'm talking to you from Southern Europe, from a small colony, debt colony of the imperialist West, which is also part of the West. And I'm mentioning this because, it's not just the United Kingdom government, which is in cahoots with Saudi Arabia, perpetrating this crime against humanity in Yemen. At least the UK government, they're making some money out of sales of weapons, not that this justifies it. I'm saying this with a tinge of cynicism, because our government here in Greece, we were told, I lead a small progressive party in the parliament. We were astonished to hear from our prime minister that the Greek Navy, which hardly has enough fuel to go around the Aegean after 10 years of a debt deflationary destruction, right? We are sending a frigate, or we actually sent a frigate to Saudi Arabia in support of Saudi Arabia. Little bankrupt, destroyed debt colony Greece is contributing to Saudi Arabia because, the great and the good are telling us that the way to get ahead in the world is, to be on the right side of the mass murderers. If you are on the right side of the mass murderers, maybe they are going to be slightly less cruel to you, to a little country like Greece. So it's a combination of money-making, of geopolitics, and of the politics of fear that is infused in the hearts of, everyone. The little people in my country are being told, we have the neo-Ottoman Empire here, Erdogan in Turkey. We need to be on the side of the United States. Of course, the United States is on the side of Turkey, just as it is on the side of Greece, because they're selling exactly the same weapons to Greece and to Turkey, while making Greece send the frigate to Saudi Arabia. We are learning no lessons from the past. Every bomb that explodes in Yemen, killing people that are subject to mass murder for years and years and years. Every such bomb is a bullet through the soul of every European, of every Western citizen. We are all guilty because even those of us who have demonstrated, we have not demonstrated enough about the crime against humanity being perpetrated in Yemen, Palestine, Kurdistan, all sorts of different parts of the world. The war is going on. It is global. It is morphing into different kinds of cruelty, of orchestrated, lucrative cruelty for those who benefit from it. And as I said, you know, the lessons of history have not been learned. I mean, I was reading only recently about an Ottoman army's attempt to put down a rebellion in a place called Yemen at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, when the Ottoman armies were trying to put down the Zaidi tribes of Yemen, who then got quite sophisticated weapons and answered back, effectively humiliating the Ottomans. So just like in Afghanistan, in Greece, in Yemen, war is being perpetrated against humanity and against rationality, and it is up to the peoples of the world to unite against those who support through guns sales and through silence the Saudi expedition in Yemen today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yemenis. We appreciate your support, and you're right. Injustices are happening in a lot of places, and we all need to be behind all these just causes and insist that our governments listen to the people. Thank you. We have now, Chris, we have something coming in from Italy.
I'm not sure that Patrizia is here, so why don't we go straight on?
Okay, so our next speaker is Ahmed al-Battati. Ahmed is a Yemeni-born British soldier who bravely absconded from his military duties to protest the war on Yemen outside the UK Ministry of Defense, saying correctly that the British government has blood on its hand. Thank you, Ahmed, for joining us.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you for having me on here. It's an honor to be speaking alongside such inspirational people. My name is Ahmed al-Battati. For those that don't know me, I am a former soldier of the British Army. I quit the job that I loved because of Britain's involvement in what is today the worst humanitarian crisis. I can openly say that I was a selfish person. All I thought about was about myself and how I could exceed in my career of climbing through the ranks. It was only around a year ago that I started practicing my religion and the teachings of Islam, and that taught me to put others before myself. A perfect example of that was Muhammad, peace be upon him, a man so selfless that he would put his own life on stake to save others and starve himself to feed others. So when I self-reflected, I knew that I needed to do more as an individual. And when I did that, what I did was I took it upon myself to try to help the people of Yemen by starting a charity foundation that was non-profitable. But the feedback that we got from the people of Yemen is that they wanted the war to stop. They couldn't depend on us giving them necessities and them not seeing a future for themselves. So we was quite taken back by the feedback that we got from them. So we started protesting to end the arms trade and to stop the war. We wrote to our local MPs, but we were pushed aside and ignored. I was quite angry and frustrated because the same government that were arming and supporting and fueling this war were the same government that expected a Yemeni like myself, a soldier, to fight for them and protect them. So I took it upon myself to protest outside Downing Street. And when I took it upon myself, shortly after, I handed in my request to leave the army. After protesting, I realized two things. I realized that unity is the only way to end this war. The second is that we have to sacrifice our comfort for the people that are starving and the ones that are being killed in Yemen. The reason for this war is people taking sides. And it is important that people know that it is the fundamental reason why this war is happening. Like I said, I want to make it clear that this is not taking sides of the Houthis, of the Saudis, or whoever's involved in this war. Each part of this war coalition is just as equally and accountable for the innocents that are starved and are dying today. I think the world has categorized human life and the value of human life. At the very top being the Western life, and at the very bottom being the lives of the Middle Eastern people. And what I mean by that is, if it was that not Yemenis being killed and starved, then they would take a different approach to this war. They will take different precautions to this war, and they would approach this war in a very sensitive manner. And that is the difference. With that being said, we need to stop taking sides. We need to unite and demand for this war to end. And what I mean by that is that we need to find peace by making peace talks and demanding our politicians to stand up and take responsibility of what's going on. Every person watching this now, I demand that this war, you should demand for this war to end and to see the future of the people of Yemen. The first steps to taking for this war to end is by seeing your role, what effects you have on people. I just spoke with the university people of the University of London, and what they told me is that the BAE systems are working alongside universities. That's something that we can take a hold of as students, as the young people, is to stand against that, is to stand against the injustice as young people. Yeah, thank you for having me on here. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. If you like to donate to Yemen as well, there is a link to a GoFundMe on my Twitter. Make sure you check that out. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks very much, Ahmed. That's fantastic. And as Ahmed says, the important thing is about getting involved, is about being part of the campaign, is about protesting. And if you go to any of the sites, if you go to the Stop the War Coalition site, if you go to the Code Pink site, you will see various different links to things that you can do immediately today, tweets that you can send out, lobbying tools for getting in touch with your local representatives, and also local protests and local organisation that's going on. So please do get involved. I'm very, very excited and pleased to be able to introduce our next speaker, who is Cornel West, who is an internationally known author, philosopher, academic and activist. Many of you will know already. He's taught at Harvard, he's taught at Yale, he's taught at Princeton, and he's a leading member, as well as being a kind of legend of the civil rights movement. He's now, I think, a leading member of the Democratic Socialists of America. So over to you, Cornel. Thanks very much for coming on. You need to unmute yourself, Cornel. That's it. Mm. Mm. Okay, there seems to be a problem here, which maybe we'll have to.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can now. Yeah, fantastic.
No, no. I'm just so blessed to be what I was saying, Brother Chris. I'm saluting you. I'm saluting my dear sister Aisha, and each and every one of us who's come together to raise our voices because we want to affirm the precious humanity of our brothers and sisters in Yemen. That we want to ensure that we keep track of this spiritual decay and moral decrepitude that takes the form of an institutionalized greed and an organized hatred against our brothers and sisters in Yemen. And we do this in such a way that we embrace all of those persons who find themselves in situations of domination and subjugation and degradation, not as some neoliberal glib gesture that makes us feel good, but rather because we have a genuine solidarity of care and concern. We stand here because we affirm truth, and the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. We affirm justice, and justice is what love looks like in public, and the love takes the form of raising voices, putting bodies on the line, and letting our brothers and sisters in Yemen know that they have not been forgotten, that their humanity will never, ever be rendered invisible, no matter what the corporate media has to say. And that we will speak the truth about them and recognize that a Yemen baby has exactly the same value as a baby in Ethiopia, a baby in Guatemala, a baby in the American Empire, a baby in Greece, a baby in Tel Aviv, a baby in West Bank and Gaza, a baby in China. That is the spiritual and moral force behind our voices coming together. And of course, I speak in the midst of the belly of the beast of the American empire, when Martin Luther King Jr. said 54 years ago, my own government is the biggest conveyor of violence because it is the major empire in the world. That's not anti-American, that's anti-injustice in America and the impact of US imperial policies around the world. So we make the connection between the police murders taking place in the United States with the Wall Street crimes taking place in New York and big tech crimes, and connected to the Pentagon militarism. And it doesn't make any difference what color the head of the Pentagon is. It doesn't make any difference what gender the vice president is. If they don't meet moral and spiritual criteria of putting the least of these at the center of their vision, poor people, working people, no matter what color, gender, sexual orientation, or national identity, we will raise our voices. This is why I'm blessed to be here. And this is why we intend to be faithful unto death and to not allow the greed and the hatred, the imperial policy, the predatory capitalism, the patriarchy, the homophobia, the transphobia, losing sight of anybody, be they Arab, Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, Baptist, whatever. Thank you for allowing me to be a small part of this great gathering.
In Russia, this man, Alexei Navalny, who had almost surely been poisoned by Russian authorities, finished his recovery in Germany and returned of his own free will to Russia to continue to organize the anti-Putin protest movement. He was promptly arrested, but he and his associates were prepared. They released an hour-long video about a palace that Putin is building for himself at the cost of $1 billion. And they called for protest. Putin's people said that Putin doesn't own the palace, even though it was built with government helicopters circling constantly during construction. There were large demonstrations in Russian cities that were met with thousands of arrests.
Putin won! 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 Putin won!
One of the demonstrations was held in eastern Siberia, even though the temperature was 50 below zero. Artist Mark Nelson made this drawing to honor it. This is reporting of the situation from Democracy Now!
Russian authorities are cracking down on TikTok and other social media sites ahead of planned anti-corruption and anti-dictatorship protests being planned for the weekend. Last weekend's rallies were met with extraordinary police violence and nearly 4,000 arrests after tens of thousands of people took to the streets of cities across 11 time zones in some of the biggest protests ever to challenge Vladimir Putin's rule. Police have stepped up arrests and home searches targeting supporters of opposition nationalist politician Alexei Navalny, who was arrested upon his return to Russia earlier this month after surviving an assassination attempt in 2020. Navalny says the attack using the Soviet-era nerve gas Novichok took place on Putin's orders. On Thursday, a court in Moscow ordered Navalny to be jailed for 30 days ahead of his trial. Navalny spoke by video link from jail.
I want to say one more time, you won't succeed in frightening us. In fact, we are the majority. You won't manage to frighten dozens of millions of people who were robbed by those in power, despite the fact that those people who are now under arrest faced hardships.
On Saturday, January 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern, the group System Change, Not Climate Change is holding a free Zoom event about the Indian farmer strike. For details and the link to join it, go to rpm.world. And now this from Democracy Now! About the farmers.
In India, farm workers taking part in a historic uprising called off a march to Parliament next week following deadly violence during a protest earlier this week that left one person dead and hundreds injured. The head of the Farmers Union condemned the violence, which saw some farmers break off from the main protest and breach the historic Red Fort complex, some driving tractors.
We are seeing new variants of the coronavirus come out in Britain and in South Africa. And in part, this is due to the slow rollout of the vaccine. Now, this may sound crazy to you because companies brought out a vaccine in record time. True, but the problem is not the creation of the vaccine, but the production. It doesn't have to be this way. On Democracy Now! You can listen to Maga Kamal Yane speak about the problem.
Well, the thing is, what people forget is the problem we're having, or one of the big problems, is the supply. There isn't enough doses available now or tomorrow or next week for everybody. Even if you want to vaccinate everybody in the US, as your plan is, Biden plan, and same in the UK, where are you going to get the doses? So there is a supply issue. The EU now is having a fight with AstraZeneca because AstraZeneca didn't cut down on what they will be able to supply for the time being. Now, why? Because there isn't enough doses. Why there isn't enough doses? Because we're keeping the production tied to one company. Only AstraZeneca can produce Oxford vaccine. Only Pfizer can produce the BioNTech vaccine. And only Moderna can produce the vaccines that was developed by the NIH or jointly with NIH. This is it's really crazy. We're in a pandemic. We need to vaccinate a big percentage of the population globally if we want to be safe. So there is a solution. The solution is to share technology. And WHO set up a mechanism whereby you can share that technology. The companies can share the technology, and with this mechanism, it's called COVID Technology Access Pool, CTAP for short. So CTAP can facilitate the technology transfer from the company to the potential producers, whether these producers are in India or in Indonesia or in Jordan or in South Africa or in Italy or Spain or any other country. There is more manufacturing capacity in the world totally unused. Why? Because we still want to keep, or leaders want to keep, the monopoly on supply and on price in the hands of pharmaceutical companies. This is crazy in a pandemic.
A number of countries now have been making bilateral deals with China, which has 2 vaccines that have been approved, at least in China, as well as with Russia for their Sputnik V vaccine, and in China it's Sinopharm and Sinovac. What do we know about the effectiveness of these vaccines and the likelihood that they will help their production and dissemination in poorer countries, will help arrest the pandemic?
Well, so the countries kind of, realize that they can't wait, and that they're, going to the big companies, they get the reply of, sorry, all my production for this year is booked. They got that answer actually from a number of companies. So they had to go to the Chinese and to the Russian.
In climate collapse news, we note a new effort from the Connecticut Climate Crisis Mobilization. This one is on Instagram. Look for it at instagram.com/C3M_pics.
Please wear a mask.
That's our program for today. Stay safe, folks, but stay active. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.